Women friend zone the men that they feel safest with. This is what I read in a Red Pill book called The Red Pill Guide to Game. And it also was on a post that just showed up on my Facebook page. It was a headline from a study in the Evolutionary Psychology Journal from 2022. And it had a short little blurb, and it was saying that the research suggests that emotional safety can reduce romantic tension. And when a man feels, quote, too safe, that her brain may shift him into the friendship category instead of attraction. Now, of course, this is a one sentence summary of an entire study. I haven't read the study. I did read the book where they really delved deeply into this idea of romantic tension and how a man needed to kind of every 3 months or so, every 90 days, he needed to kind of assert his dominance or do something unpredictable so things didn't get boring. Now, I definitely agree with being spontaneous, and I definitely agree with keeping the spark in a relationship. I'm not sure about being unpredictable, because the way it was framed in the Red Pill book, it was almost like try to humble her or try to make her feel insecure about the status of the relationship kind of thing. So I think that's negative. But in looking at the 75 comments on this particular post, it was mostly men. And the men were very outraged. That's why you need to stay dangerous, is what one guy said. And, they friend zoned the dude that should have been their husband, and so on and so forth. But the point that these guys seem to miss is, again, this is one sentence summarizing a study, but we don't know anything else about the guy except that she felt he was safe. Now, speaking as a woman myself, there have been a lot of men that I felt were safe and I was completely unattracted to, or they were completely inappropriate for me, so I responded, it seems like a lot of you are making assumptions that these men, because they're safe, are good relationship partners. Now, safety is important. You don't want to be with someone who is a threat to you. Yes, but it is not the only thing that somebody should look at. I mentioned we all have needs. We all have priorities. And these men could be in another state. They could have young children. They could be as old as her father or her grandfather. They could be as young as her son. They could be a workaholic. They could be not a heterosexual male. So not even interested in women at all. And that could be one reason why she finds them, quote, safe. They could be completely incompatible on every other aspect of life: ambition, intelligence, goals, lifestyle, everything. They could have so many differences that it just wouldn't make a relationship feasible. But again, this idea that is out there in society that women just don't know what's good for them, that if they're making a choice, it kind of has to be the wrong choice, and men looking at it would know better what they should do, and if they would just listen to men, women would just be fine, is so misogynistic. It is so misogynistic. And I can mention a lot of times when I felt safe with a guy, but he was not a good partner. For example, when I was in college, I felt very safe with my college roommate's boyfriend. Now, if they had stopped dating, I still would not feel it's appropriate for me to date him. They had a very serious relationship. I would feel like that he was off limits. So again, there's so many different scenarios in which someone might not be a good choice just because they're safe. And just to kind of put the icing on the cake, I mentioned that there's about 60 years of research. No, let me restate that. There's about 80 years of research about human needs in terms of how they relate to attraction and relationship fulfillment. And one of the most beautiful and succinct summaries that I've ever heard is that we sometimes have about 6 competing needs. when it comes to who we find attractive and who we can have a successful relationship with, and even how we can build a successful life as a single person. The first need is for certainty, that we need to have a sense of security and comfort and assurance that we can avoid pain and gain pleasure. So that's that safety need that this person could possibly meet. But then the second need is kind of the opposite of that. We need a little bit of uncertainty and variety. We need to have the ability to have things that are unknown, things that change, new experiences, so that life doesn't feel monotonous, so our relationships don't feel monotonous. We need to have significance, the need to feel important, unique, special, or needed. So again, going back to what I said before, if this person is a workaholic, and even though you feel safe with them, you feel like there is no importance to you being in their life, that they would not prioritize you, that they don't have any desire to have a serious relationship or a marriage, that whole idea of being safe would put them in the friend zone, because you're not going to feel the significance you need with this person. And then there's the idea of need number 4, love and connection, that you have a feeling of closeness or union with someone. Again, let's say that you feel safe with this person, but they have a lot of emotional wounds. They are not able to really open up to you. You can open up to them. Maybe they can be supportive to you. Maybe they have your best interest at heart. But there are lots of people that I've known in my life who would give you the shirt off their back, but they don't have any desire to necessarily, quote, love in the terms that we think of romantically. They've given up on relationships. They don't see themselves in relationships, but they can be a great friend. Oh my gosh, you are so safe with them. But they have no idea of how to heal. They don't want to go to therapy. They don't want to get past their woundedness. And then you have the 5th need, growth, the need to expand your capacity, capability, or understanding. And then the last need was contribution. That idea that you have some purpose, that you're making a difference in the world, that you are a part of something larger than yourself. So again, people, I think, that kind of jump to conclusions about what other people need is kind of ridiculous. That person, that woman in this case, knows what she needs. And just the idea that a man being safe is good enough, we need to stop with this, one shot fix all, that this magic bullet. Relationships need more than one thing. Money isn't enough for a lot of relationships to last. Safety isn't enough for a lot of relationships to last. Even love.